how many scores of little children who witness what happened see their friends die as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake. They'll live with it the rest of their lives.
President Joe Biden addressing the country tonight. 19 children in grades 2nd, 3rd, and 4th shot and killed after a gunman barged into classrooms at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas.
One teacher and at least one other adult also died during today's school shooting. The heartbreak and frustration being felt throughout the country. Flags lowered to half staff at the White House and Capitol building. President Biden choked up tonight as he spoke directly to those parents affected by today's shooting.
To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. Suffocating. It's never quite the same.
Police say the 18-year-old suspect was shot and killed by officers. He lived in that small city and was a student at the high school.
Police say he used a handgun and might have also had a rifle with him. Uvalde Police Chief Pete Arredondo says the teen did act alone.
Now, today's mass shooting coming only days after 10 black Americans were killed during a racially motivated attack in Buffalo. President Biden tonight addressing today's mass shooting at an elementary school in Texas. The commander-in-chief consoling the nation after the tragedy of innocent victims being gunned down.
To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away.
A Texas state senator briefed by Texas Rangers says at least 21 victims, 19 students and 2 adults are dead. Authorities identified the gunman as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos. Officials say he abandoned his vehicle, entered the school with a handgun and possibly a rifle. He was later shot and killed by police responding to the shooting.
We're in the process of obtaining detailed background information on the subject.
This horrific scene happened at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, an area less than 100 miles west of San Antonio.
We are seeing way too many of these horrific mass murders.
The tragedy comes a week after a mass shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, and more than a decade after the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School claimed the lives of 20 children and 6 adults. This latest shooting renewing passionate debates over gun control legislation.
Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely.
President Biden calling for action to prevent future tragedies.
Don't tell me we can't have an impact on this carnage.
A country once again experiencing unimaginable loss.
At least 3 other victims are in the hospital tonight. Hugo Avala's cousin is a teacher at Robb Elementary. She was shot in the attack. He said she's doing okay tonight. Avala and his family grew up in Uvalde and say things like this aren't supposed to happen in small towns like theirs.
I grew up there. I went to school there. Again, Robb Elementary, I believe it was 3rd and 4th grade. I was there. It's extremely tight-knit community. Everyone knows each other. Would have never expected that.
The school superintendent says grief counseling and support will be available for anyone who is struggling or needs to talk.
Though it was more than 1,000 miles away, many emotions are being felt right here in Central Ohio. NBC4's Eric Halpern tells us Columbus City leaders held a moment of silence for the victims of today's shooting. Eric.
Carrie, City Council had a meeting tonight about violence prevention efforts here in Columbus. It was scheduled before what happened this afternoon in Texas, but the meeting didn't start before a pause and a moment to think about those in Texas. Silence at Columbus City Hall Tuesday night. A moment of reflection for the lives lost and those forever changed in Uvalde.
Before we get started today, I want to acknowledge the atrocity that's occurred in Texas.
Councilmember Emanuel Remy taking time for Texas before starting a previously scheduled hearing about violence prevention efforts in Columbus. The Department of Public Safety, Police, Public Health, and Rec and Parks all there to discuss their work to make Columbus safer.
basically one of the reasons why we're here today, is to avoid situations like we've seen in so many instances around this country.
Marion Stuckey is the section chief of neighborhood social services at Columbus Public Health. Like people nationwide, the Texas shooting is on her mind.
I think about what those families are experiencing. Traumatic loss is the most devastating type of loss, right? You're not expecting it. It happens out of the blue. You're expecting to go get your children from school, and this happens.
She leads the CARE Coalition, which helps families in neighborhoods after traumatic events. She says families here will see the awful news out of Texas and be affected by it. Kids will go to school tomorrow. They might have questions. They might be worried.
That is totally normal to experience fear or anxiety, especially after something like this happens at such a public place where we're all going. We're dropping our kids off. Kids are spending their whole day. So it's really important that parents acknowledge that anxiety, that fear, and talk about it.
And another thing Stuckey tells people dealing with this or other trauma, she says, provide kids the space, but don't force the space. Local for you in Columbus, I'm Eric Halpern, NBC4.